Hey, good afternoon. Larry here, and we're going to kick off another contact report. We're going to do contact report 125. And let's rock. Let's do it. Translator for this one is Benjamin Stevens. Corrections and improvements made by Joseph Darmanin and Catherine Mossman. Contact persons, Semjase. Okay, this was the 125th contact. This took place Tuesday, 11 December 1979 at 12:34 hours, so roughly 12:30 in the afternoon. Billy, hello. There is a rather strong storm up here. If you do not maneuver the ship, then damn, we will ram the treetop. Already done. Good day, my child. I am happy to see you. If you get me the treetop, I could use that at the turn of the year as a Christmas tree. It would be something different. So, a top of a full grown fir. It certainly measures 32 meters. So, it sounds like Semjase hit a treetop and knocked it off. Semjase, that is your strangest greeting that you have ever made, my dear friend. Be welcome. So, I'm assuming they must be in Semjase's ship, because they didn't say that, but in their ship, they hit the top of a fir tree or a pine tree and knocked it down or broke it off or whatever. Billy wants to use it as a Christmas tree. So, okay. Semjase, that is your strangest greeting that you have ever made, my dear friend. Be welcome. Yes, there is a strong turbulence here, and I will get you the top of the tree. Unfortunately, I had to turn off the protective shields and the stabilization fields when I brought you up. Therefore, the ship was exposed to the storm gusts, by which means we unfortunately damaged the tree. But that is not so bad. What is much worse are the things and concerns for which I have called you. Here we go again. Billy, you are giving me entirely nice hopes for a friendly chat. So I would like to ask you right away, before I no longer get an opportunity, what is with the list of the names? Semjase, I have some of those here. I will give them to you. But now listen carefully to the very unpleasant things that I have to report to you. Since our last meeting, we have tried to analyze in every detail all still unchecked recordings, as well as recordings that have newly started in the meantime, which has led to a result that will be just as unpleasant for you as it also was for us. Here we go again. Also, your group members certainly will not feel warm and happy feelings about it. Billy, what the devil is going on now that you can talk like that? Semjase, you know the context very well, for which reasons we had to end our contacts and nevertheless declared ourselves willing to maintain purely friendly contacts further on our own responsibility. Billy, of course, how should I forget that? Semjase, then you probably also remember that for the further maintenance of the friendly contacts, we set certain conditions to be fulfilled and followed, which were imposed on every single member of the group of your community. Billy, of course I remember that. How should I forget that too? In addition to the fact that everything was readable in the corresponding contact report for every group member, I also spoke with everyone about the fact that there could be absolutely no doubt that your conditions are now final and must also be fulfilled accordingly by every single group member. Otherwise, also, these remaining contacts would be broken off. It was therefore urged to each individual to pull themselves together from now on in every respect, to work expediently and to change for the better. Semjase, sure. And what impression have you gotten? Was this arrangement followed by all? Billy, I would not like to express myself about that. Semjase, I understand. You do not want to express your opinion about anyone and do not want any ill will. When I consider that in such a manner, I understand you very well. But by that, you are not acting logically, my friend. You are not acting illogically, my friend. Think about it once very thoroughly. ... Still, you are probably right, but you are no longer able to change anything at all by that, because we are already oriented in the best manner by our analysis and have made our final decision. Billy, then finally talk already, girl, if you must deliver me bad news and a devil's message. The hammer comes down. Semjase, you can actually call it that. So listen then. Our remaining analyses revealed that our set conditions were in no wise kept by various group members, which led to even much graver results than what we had worked out up to the 11th of November, after which we grasped our now seemingly hasty decisions at that time in reference to different group members and their time-restricted emigration to America. At that time, we mentioned to you the names of the group members, Elsie, Johann, Madeline, and Bernadette, who were to go away for different reasons, but we only explained the deeper reasons to you unofficially. Today, however, I cannot help but come on behalf of everyone in order to mention these reasons in our conversation, so that they will be transmitted later in the contact report. The first thing to mention is that the true and exact reason for all time-restricted emigrations of the various group members rests in the fact that they were so harmed by the conduct of Jacobus in every relation that only through this emigration measure could they have been preserved from a departure and withdrawal from the group. Man, it sounds every single contact, this Larry, every single contact report, Jacobus is knee-deep in it, neck-deep in it. He's always getting in trouble. All right. Here we go. But now, as a result of the remaining acquired analysis, it has arisen that the things related to this are even very much worse, and that Jacobus, in an incredibly selfish form, has had such a profoundly negative impact on all group members, especially again in the last 3 months, that even this measure is no longer able to lead to success, which is why you can now also finally write off this plan with America. So they're not coming over to America to start another center. Not only Madeline, Bernadette, and Johann have become group exiting in their subconscious because of Jacobus, but also some other group members with which the things in this relation have also partially become rather acute. Especially with Elsie, things have already intensified to a rather peculiar form, whereby she has already partially acquired certain characteristics of Jacobus, which quite often leads to disagreements between you and her, regrettably. Also, according to the recordings, Jacobus already for quite some time has no longer endeavored himself in a determinative and suitable form around the teaching, for whose non-compliance he feigns reasons that are not such. Kick Jacobus out, this Larry speaking. Just kick him out. He's been nothing but trouble for years. It might be a friend, but he's not worth the trouble. His thoughts and actions correspond to an unparalleled stubbornness, whereby a profound egoism has widely grown in him. The recordings also show that he, at every inappropriate opportunity, lets his egoistic thoughts and actions uninhibitedly run wild for quite some time, whereby he accuses all other group members of inactivity, parasitism, and even laziness without any justification or truth. In such cases, he went and goes so far that he treacherously incites non-group members and makes them inharmonious towards the other group members, by which means, in this year alone, 9 interested persons retreated from their efforts to apply for core group candidature, as my personal analysis yielded, which I made when I came across this fact. So he's chased away 9 possible core group members that were trying to get in a core group, and he's chased them off. It is also clear from this that Jacobus strove in no wise to change himself truthfully. So he also ignored my continuous impulses, which I sent to him since that time, when I said that he needs a wife who rebukes him with a hard kitchen utensil. He needs to get hit over the head with a frying pan, I guess. Since these impulses were simply ignored by him because he was not willing to change truthfully, and because he stubbornly continues to believe that only his manner of conduct is masculine, which it in no wise is, however, I release him immediately from my impulse irradiation, by which means his true Wesson will again reach implementation and be in full force down to the last negative detail. She was trying to adjust him from the inside, radiating him with some kind of good swinging waves or whatever. I'm not sure how they do that, but that's over. I must recognize now that for him, all impulse assistance represents a pointless effort, and that if another change should still enter, this must now be made by him alone, which will not and cannot be the case, however, if he does not voluntarily strive to wed within a short time. He ... So they want Jacobus to get married, and I guess married to a mean woman that can put him under her thumb, get him under control. Billy, do you mean by what you just said that he should marry? Semjase, sure, that is to be represented by that. Only then can he be changed, but he is afraid of that because he knows very well that he would then have to discard his selfish Wesson and truly behave as a man. His present Wesson, however, does not correspond yet to that of a grown man, but rather to that of a teenage boy, who is absolutely at odds with himself and with the world and the environment, which is why he sees only himself in every relation. We can now only give him a single opportunity for improvement, and this time it must be final. We grant him, and thus also the responsible group, one more time period until the last day of the month of June in the year 1980. If he has not finally endeavored on the right path by then he has to be excluded from the group. Yeah, it's about time. Until then, however, this contact conversation will be the last one that we will still transmit to you. So until then, no further contact conversations will be transmitted for the group members, and you have to be silent until then about all still purely friendly contacts with yourself, without mentioning any details, etc. If it should turn out that by the date specified in the next year, Jacobus has not fundamentally changed and has not otherwise been excluded by the group members, then the termination of this connection to the group will also remain for all time, just as it will be if not all group members are truly integrated into the group by then. So now they're going to break off friendly contacts as well as official contacts. Okay, this especially applies to your wife, whose actions and attitude have for quite some time actually been openly pursuing the same forms as those of Jacobus. Also, for quite some time, she has no longer endeavored truthfully and in honesty around the determinative concerns, which is why she has disappointed me very bitterly. Her, in particular, I had locked very deeply into my friendly feelings, and now she of all has saddened and disappointed me very bitterly. She, too, should now finally be clear about everything, especially about what very important form she holds in our common mission. She must be completely clear about the fact that she represents and embodies the most important form of that example, which you have already been trying to fulfill for months in the team of three, which should then finally become the earthly and natural norm in the distant future. Let me read that again. She must be completely clear about the fact that she represents and embodies the most important form of that example, which you have already been trying to fulfill for months in the team of three, which should then finally become the earthly and natural norm in the distant future. She, however, likewise has to discard her egoism, as this must also be the case with Jacobus. She has to recognize and learn that the true truth is not what she imagines, but that this alone is the truth, which we have brought and which you have written down through your attained knowledge. Billy, see, girl, I often tried to make all that clear to Jacobus, as well as to my Agapula. I'm not sure what an Agapula is. I guess that's a pet name for his wife. But everything has borne no fruit. Behind everything lies, in my opinion, not only egoism, jealousy, and conceit, but also anxiety, fear, not wanting to understand, and stubbornly not wanting to give up their own wrong views. But there is also a rather large portion of self-pity, but also betrayal on the part of my wife. Semjase, that will probably be objected to, but it actually corresponds to the truth. For as I now know, your fears relating to her were fully justified. But I first recognized this in a true form a few days ago. From her side are lying and deception, dishonesty, falsehood against you, the mission, and also against the group members, whom she has harmed financially as well as in belongings, as she also did to you. Billy, I know that damn well, but what should I do? I cannot do more than talk and talk again, right? Semjase, sure, and I know very well that you also try that over and over again. Billy, yes, I most certainly do that, and certainly no one can give me a reproach concerning this. But I am mostly driven quite simply halfway to insanity with illogical answers and with senseless counterattacks and with not thinking about what I have said and explained, such that I get fed up with it and scream out loud. Welcome to married life. Sorry. Semjase, you should not let yourself be tempted into that. Billy, I know, but from time to time, my nerves just simply will not take it anymore. Semjase, sure, I already understand, and I know very well that you have no easy time at such moments. And honestly said, I would like to confess to you once that I could never muster up as much patience as you. Only, I would not raise my voice in such a manner as what you can do. Rather, I would remove myself from the area of such unreasonable and stubborn human beings. Perhaps I would try the same thing again 2 or 3 times, but then I would finally break these things off, as every other human being would also do. Thus, just as it would not only be the case with us, if there were still such things with us, but as it is truly the case, according to my knowledge, also with you on earth. If you can't get along with her, it's time to go away, or she is, anyway. But your patience and perseverance, my dear friend, they should not also appear so fast with another human being on the earth. Billy, that may be, but I just cannot help it. Maybe you understand that? Semjase, sure. Billy, good. Then at least that. But what should we do now with regard to America? If the contacts are now flattened so far that even no more contact reports will be given, then it is also no longer possible that we can clarify these America things for a new construction, etc., right? You did say that at least until the end of June 1980. I am also no longer allowed to relate anything more about the contacts. Semjase, that is right, sure, and it must also remain so. The credit for this belongs to Jacobus, which must now, unfortunately, be said. According to our judgment, it would have also been more right if Madeline, Bernadette, and Johann did not have to be chosen to go to America, but this was due to the unreasonable, unjustified, and selfish behavior and abuse of Jacobus. According to our insights, it would have been the most useful if Johann could have decided to move into the center, and also Bernadette and Madeline, who could have continued to stay there. The whole manner of Jacobus, however, required other measures, but this can now also no longer have validity, as we now have to put the whole responsibility for everything entirely into the hands of all group members. They all must now see themselves how the continuation is to be. That is our final decision, and it is certain. Billy, then that means, in other words, that at least until the end of June of 1980, you will no longer make yourselves available with pieces of advice, etc. You will keep yourselves completely out of everything, and we can no longer reach you with any concerns at all? Semjase, sure, that is the meaning of my words. Something will only change one last time if, by the date mentioned, everything is finally organized, as is expected by us. Moreover, I would still like to suggest to you that by then, even rather a month before, you create another workroom, and to be sure, here or here, as you see on this drawing here. Billy, but why that? Semjase, if you, by the date mentioned, still continue to work furthermore in your current workroom, the greatest danger for your life will exist. The actions of the brothers H and K and the publication of the book, in addition to leading to very much success, have also set many negative things in motion. Our probability calculations related to this revealed that your current workroom has become extremely dangerous for you, starting from the date mentioned, which is why you should make yourself another one here or here. Billy, that will, however, cost quite a lot again. Semjase, nevertheless, no other choice remains for you. Billy, and what should happen then with the current office? Semjase, other group members can use it without concern, for there is no danger for them. Who should be harmed in life and limb, this refers only to you alone. The group members themselves are neither endangered now nor in the coming time. Billy, but that is ridiculous, I think. After all, attacks can be perpetrated on them. Semjase, that will not be the case, for you are that person who is supposed to be shut down for the sake of concealing the truth. Thus, act in accordance with my advice, otherwise no further help can be given to you. This is Larry. Do it. We've had enough. We're telling you, do it. Billy, all right, I will have to, whether I like it or not. But tell me, since you now also want to cut off the contact reports, how does it stand, then, with your promise that I can soon take new pictures once again when you have your new ship? Semjase, the decision of us all stands above my promise, unfortunately, so I cannot redeem this for the time being. Under certain circumstances, depending on how the decision falls on the last day of June 1980, I can then tell you further details about it. I will keep my promise, of that you can be sure, but until then it can last a very long time for you. Billy, then there is probably nothing more to be done there. Semjase, you are right, unfortunately. I now have to go back again, so I must say goodbye to you. Billy, but you said, nevertheless, that you brought along the list with the names. Semjase, it is only a first part of names, which I will still transmit to you, of course, despite our decision. From now, I have listed the letters A, B, and D alphabetically here, and for each letter I have listed 21 female names and 21 male names. But I can no longer read this list aloud to you now due to lack of time, so I will simply transmit it to you at a suitable opportunity. Billy, that is also all right with me, and by the way, I am still to convey to you rather dear greetings from all group members. Semjase, I thank them very lovingly for that, and under other circumstances I would be happy about it even very much more than today. But return to them, despite everything, also my greetings, which will be the last, unfortunately, up to the last day of June 1980, or even forever, depending on what results up to decision day. But now, farewell, my dear friend. Farewell, and do not be too sad, even if our contacts are now even much rarer than what was the case in the last times. But always keep in mind our secret agreement from the 11th of November because it is irrefutable. But always keep in mind our secret agreement from the 11th of November because this is irrefutable. Billy, even so, I must come to terms with that, whether I like it or not. Damn it, all this is not so easy. Damn it again. Silence is often very difficult. Goodbye, dear child. Take care. Goodbye. Semjase, farewell, dear friend. ... Okay, and there is a continuation of this contact. Actually, quite a extensive continuation of this contact. Semjase, I am sorry that I brought you up once again, but with all the saddening explanations, I forgot to mention a very important point, which we have already discussed several times, but this brought no success at all because you in no way tried to change these things. Billy, I do not understand, girl. What do you now want to address again with that? Semjase, you will immediately understand very well. I speak of the fact that we have already instructed you several times to come to an arrangement with all the group members so that you do not have to pay monthly residential contributions anymore. We find ... So she's going to... Evidently, he's still paying rent, and they don't want him paying rent. So he brought him back to chew him out, sounds like. Billy, about that, there is really nothing more to talk about. I myself have found, for different reasons, that I should pay this rent, and that is that. In return, I have all those rooms for my family that I need for them. Also, peace is given with the fact that no accusations can be made about me, that I am resting on the pockets of the group and taking advantage of them in order to live in the center for free. That should now finally also be clear to you all. Semjase, no, that is not clear to us. We are of the conviction that you may not pay one more remuneration for the necessary rooms because your work exceeds this by hundreds and millions of times. Solely what you have done so far in work for the whole group and for all of humankind, you can never be compensated for, so it is absolutely inappropriate that you pay one more residential payment for the necessary rooms. We were never in agreement with that at any point in time, which is why this must now finally be put in order. As is common with the human beings of Earth, a purposeful contract is now to be made between you and all group members, which grants you and all your family members an absolute exemption from payments and free-to-use premises for life, where also the energy is to be free, which is necessary for heating and lighting and for living and preservation. We have oriented ourselves in this regard and know about the fact that also water and electricity, energy, etc. are subject to fees on the earth, which is why we also want to see a corresponding clause anchored in an appropriate contract, which you shall then submit to us for inspection. Since up to now you have done nothing in this connection to initiate these things. This time it is to be such that these concerns are transmitted to you in writing, by which means every group member can gain insight therein and act accordingly. It is just not right that you continue to pay a remuneration because, as I already often told you, neither are you able to bear this financially in the long run, nor is it a fact of fairness. For through your work already done, you have given very much more than what you can ever be compensated for. And since solely all your family members, by their presence around you, have helped you in the greatest measure with all your tasks and works and their fulfillment, the same is to apply to them. That is our decision, which you now have to hold in honor. Billy, I find that unfair. Semjase, so would it only be if you would not act according to our instructions. If you should not act accordingly in the future, then you would also sadden me very much. Billy, I would not want that, but you do know my reasons for my actions. Semjase, these should have never been accepted by the group members as correct. On the contrary, all group members should have striven for your protection in order to protect you against such unwarranted attacks and intrigues. In the future, the whole group is to be responsible for this task, and that is my final word on this matter. Now, farewell, dear friend, and act accordingly. Billy, but that, ... Semjase, that was my final word on that. Farewell. Billy, okay, take care, girl, even if you seem to want to cause me trouble now. Semjase, that does not correspond to the truth, my friend. Think about it thoroughly and logically once. But now, farewell and goodbye, because I am in a rush today and must return. Billy, it is all right. I do not want to keep you any further. I am already going. Bye, my child. Take care. Semjase, goodbye. One moment. ... Semjase receives a call via her communication device and answers it briefly. However, I do not understand what is being said because I am not master of their spoken language. Okay, I have just received the message that my task has otherwise settled itself in the meantime. Consequently, I can still remain here and report to you what has arisen with my further look into the future, which I carried out once again since our last contact, and whose data reach up to the year 2000. If you want, I can still inform you about it. Billy, of course. Let us hear what you have to report. In parentheses, the following information was first made accessible to parts of the core group in the year 2003. Until then, nobody knew anything of the following conspiracy talk and actions between Semjase and Billy. Let's see here. One more in parentheses. The following information was first made accessible to parts of the core group in the year 2003. Until then, nobody knew anything about the following conspiracy talk and actions between Semjase and Billy. Semjase, first I would like to explain to you some things that will happen with regard to the group members starting from next year, and I must name Guido in the first place, for whom I have not yet found out the exact date of the occurrence that is approaching him, however. But it will certainly be in the course of the next year, when it happens, that Guido will suffer an infarction of his heart and will have to be hospitalized. The heart attack will, indeed, be quite serious, but he will overcome everything well, so you do not have to worry. The whole thing will, however, bring with it harmful consequences for Guido's health. Consequently, in the future, he will succumb to heart-related problems which he will have to bear throughout his remaining years of life, which he will do, however, with bravado. Although more or less unpleasant setbacks will appear during the later years, nevertheless, he will master these just as well as the separation and divorce from his wife, which will be pending in 1981 or 1982. Nevertheless, he will later be wed again, namely to a core group member who will step into appearance during the 80s and will become his spouse. So much is to be said with regard to Guido up to the year 2000. I have not investigated further about his future. Billy, that is already enough. But what about Elsie? You recently gave me an indication that she will become disloyal to the mission and our community. Semjase, that is right, because in the course of the upcoming 80s, she will, for frivolous and unjustified reasons, withdraw from the group community and go her separate way. The reasons will be such that they relate to unfulfillable demands that are familiar to you. She will first appear irregularly in the center and at the meetings for some time, after which she will then distance herself and withdraw from everything definitively. But to my knowledge, Quetzal has already given you an explanation about that. Billy, he has, yes. Elsie's demands are really are unfulfillable, and I ask myself from where she actually thinks. Also, her imperiousness is a thing in itself with which one cannot get along with certain behaviors. So perhaps it is really better if she removes herself from our mission and from all of us and has nothing more to do with the whole thing. Semjase, we think that too, because her behavior regarding her demands could cause a lot of harm. And to be sure, both in your group as well as abroad with those not involved. But listen further to what I have to say. Concerning Eva's birthing of the son, which will bring you two and the group members very much joy, it probably is not necessary to give you further explanations because that which you already know from me should be sufficient. It is to be mentioned that also Bernadette will bring a son into the world during the 80s, and that on the 9th of May, 1982. Also, Cornelia will follow with the birth of a child, for on the 31st of July, 1986, she will give birth to a daughter. Another birth will then occur once more through Eva, for she will give birth to a daughter. Unfortunately, the child will be severely disabled, but this will change nothing in your love for the girl. You, dear friend, will be the father of the child who will be born on the 18th of January, 1997. Huh? Let me go back a couple of paragraphs here. Another birth will then occur once more through Eva, for she will give birth to a daughter. Unfortunately, the child will be severely disabled, but this will change nothing in your love for the girl. You, dear friend, will be the father of the child, who will be born on the 18th of January, 1997. Concerning the divorce of your wife, Eva will become your future life partner, but you will not be in a civil marriage, but rather in a free marriage, as we also exercise it, when a husband and wife will live together. During the first time relating to this, during approximately 12 years, a little more will still happen, but I was not able to clarify this completely yet, which is why I will first report further details about this to you when I can give exact facts. Therefore, do not ask me about it. I will certainly explain everything to you when I have exact information. Moreover, I must suggest to you that you do not speak openly about all the things mentioned, not even with regard to Guido, in order not to cause fears and anxieties, and in order not to rashly influence the course of that which is already fixed. For perhaps one and another would seek to change something that may not be changed. It's a problem with knowing the future. Sometimes it makes you happy, and sometimes it makes life suck. Anyway, Billy, you should know, nevertheless, that I only ever pass on information that you allow me to. Moreover, I myself have come across the fact that I wrap myself in silence even with Guido in order not to frighten him. Semjase, of course, I know that you will be silent. I simply wanted to suggest it to you once again. Billy, you are illogical, my child. But now, was that everything that you had to report, or are there still other things up to the turn of the millennium? Semjase, yes, there are still sad things to report if you want to hear them. They also concern your family. Billy, oh, if you speak of sadness, then you probably mean the sorrow of death, if I understand you correctly and interpret your facial expression correctly. Semjase, yes, I speak of that. I still do not have the exact dates, but I have already fathomed the approximate years. Billy, if you say that, then you are already quite sure, right? Semjase, quite, yes. Billy, so then it concerns my family members. Which one or ones must I carry to the grave then? Semjase, there will also be a core group member who will die in the early 90s, perhaps already at the end of the 80s, namely Hans Benz, who sees his best friend in you. Billy, well, it really hits me, because even if one has already often experienced the same, it still lashes out on the psyche again and again. One really does not like to lose a human being. That always gives me very much to think about, and indeed, even when I see unfamiliar human beings dying, or even only hear of their dying when they die or are killed, etc. But you are evading me now with your answer, dear girl. You have addressed my family. Semjase, should I really? ... Billy, yes, ... It will be all right. Moreover, it is inevitable because the current life does not last forever, and indeed also not with me and also not with my relatives. This is as clear to me as the fact that life begins at begetting. Semjase, then I will speak of your brother Carl, who will suffer a fatal traffic accident almost certainly in the year 1984 or 1985. Then in 1989, your father will die. Around 1994, your mother, and then around the turn of millennium, your brother Gottlieb, and shortly after that, your sister Verena will follow. You wanted me to tell you this. Billy, ... Yes, I wanted that. Thanks. As usual, nothing is to change, I think. Semjase, I am sorry, my dear friend. It ... Billy, it was all right. You wanted to say, nevertheless, that it was not right that you told me everything. Semjase, yes, that is what I wanted to say. I am truly sorry. ... Billy, you do not need to be sorry, girl, because I told you, nevertheless, that I know that the current life does not last forever. Semjase, but there are 5 of your family members who will part from your world in only about 15 years. Billy, I know that, and I have also already experienced it several times. Semjase, I know that too, your dear friends and lifelong companions whom you lost so tragically. Billy, please, we should not talk about that. Already that which you have reported to me hurts enough. I do not need any more right now. So let us talk about something else. How does it stand with my children, Gilgamesh, Atlantis, and Methuselah? Semjase, do you really want to know that too? Billy, if you are going to do it, then do it. Semjase, as you wish. Gilgamesh will succumb to a very serious car accident and will become severely disabled at the beginning of the 90s, around the time she comes of age. She will no longer be accessible to her task in terms of the mission and everything, and neither will Methuselah, who will completely alienate himself from the mission. At first, this will also be the case with Atlantis, but at a later time, he will find a return to the mission and to the group community. On the 4th of June, I could not yet give you all this information, unfortunately, because it was not yet known to me. Billy, all right, it is sufficient for today, in order to be finished with that. Somehow, I will soon digest and take in your bad news. You should not doubt that. Semjase, I do not, because in your life you already have so many things that must be processed and taken in, by which many other human beings would be broken. Billy, I do not want to argue with you. Rather, I would still like to ask you a question. Semjase, you changed the subject quickly, but that is indeed your way in order not to let unpleasantness become tragedy. So then bring forward your question. Billy, I know from Quetzal that the volcanoes Vesuvius, Etna, and Stromboli should become very active in the coming time, and Vesuvius should erupt when the Third World War comes. Is that still valid? He's asking if it's still valid, so it must not be a prediction, it must be a prophecy, because prophecies can be changed. Predictions are set in stone, basically. Semjase, the situation concerning the eruption of Vesuvius has changed, but the danger will exist furthermore. The things of world events have already shifted time-wise, and certain prophecies will thereby change, be canceled, or come true at a later point in time. The Etna volcano and Stromboli, however, will become very active, particularly starting in the late 90s, and will carry the risk of exploding in themselves. Similarly, this applies to an Atlantic volcano of the Spanish archipelagos. But now, dear friend, I still want to give you the list with the names here, which I have forgotten to hand over to you. Billy, thanks. Surely also all the group members will be pleased to receive this list of names. Oh, foreign names, which are not so unknown to me, however. Somehow I remember them. Are these now the new names that you want to bring me? And there's a list of, here there's a list of names. A whole buttload of names. Okay, I'll go through them. I'll try. First name, this must be for male. First one is Abdjlos, Abdjlos, the man who is loyal to creation. And then right next to it is Abjila, the woman who is loyal to creation. Okay, number 2 is Abeos, is the good father, and Abega is the good mother. I'm not going to spell them all out. You can read them on the Future of Mankind's website if you like. I'm just going to kind of go through them pretty quick. Atlantis is the guardian of the seas. Atlanta is the woman who bears the celestial vault. Absalomos is father of peace, and Ananda is the joyous and happy woman. Agapos, the loving man, and Arcana is the woman who bears secrets. Akumo, guardian of the stars and planets. Asnya, the woman who is a sea dancer. Akazjo, the immaculate man. Alina, the soft and tender woman. Anandos is the joyous and happy man. Agja is the woman who controls. Arahat, precious man. Agapa, the loving woman. Argel, guardian of the hearth fire of creation. Aramata is the woman who is loved. Astros, the man who is a star observer. Arcanana is the guardianess of the secrets. Atlan, the guardian of the mountains. Asja, the bird protectress. Athersata, the man who contemplates the times. So Arahat and Athersata are both in here. The man who contemplates Arahat Athersata, by the way, is the lowest level of purely spiritual beings. no bodies. They are the lowest of several levels. And the Patali level is the highest, if I remember right. So Atharsata, the man who contemplates the times. Askisa, the skilled woman. Atlant, the man who bears the celestial vault. Athana, the fire guardianess. Atmabodas, the self-discerning man. Athara, mother of the night. Adjos, the man who hears. Athmara, the universal discerning woman. Ephestaus, the law-bearing man. Aula is the woman who is enwalled by light. Arcanos, the man who bears secrets. Oruma, the woman who is enwalled by glory. Eros, guardian of the sky. Aphantara, the woman who bears the power of creation. Aginsos, the cause-forming man. Alumbrada, the enlightened woman. Asramas, the self-endeavoring man. Amata, the beloved woman. Baphomethos, the man with the beard. Bela, the mistress. Barsabal, the iron man. Binara, the woman who is rational and full of understanding. Binar, the man who is rational and full of understanding. Bursula, the woman who offers shelter. Bodo, the discerning man. Burgida, the woman who tells stories. Brahmo, the strong man. Bahata, the woman who stands as a candidate. Budho, the enlightened man. Barishita, the woman who is a beginner. I know I'm slaughtering these names, and I'm sorry, but I just kind of read them as I can. Bigam, the princely man. Birida, the woman who is a researcher. Belan, the royal man. Bisa, the woman who unifies. Belzant, the man who is a nicely sounding singer. Barifa, the woman who is a secret instructor. Belisal, the victorious man. Barukata, the woman who is an announcer. Berlos, the nobleman. Bersita, the woman who is an origination expert. Bizosos, the living man. Banha, Banja, Banja, the cleanly woman. Bijar, the administering man. BJZJNJA, the woman who is a song singer. Bolidas, the meteoric man. Bahalik, the woman who is a lyricist. Baten, the man who is botanis, the man who is a plant expert. Botanist, I guess where that's botanist came from. The man who is a plant expert. Botanjs, botanist, man who's a plant expert. Banara, the woman who is a trainer of knowledge. Budger, the man who is a planner. Bajia, the good wife. Berthel, the man who is a game fighter. Belinhira, the beauty. Bukoligic, the herdsman and shepherd poet. Banyira, the woman who is an onlooker. Burjan, the man who tells stories. Basilia, the woman who is a law expert. Bahas, the man who drives antics. Benisa, the woman who is an alliance closer. Bursal, the man who offers shelter. Burzalia, the woman who is an analyzer. Dudikon, the man who deduces. Debarijma, the woman who speaks. Demgiro, the man who works well with his hands. Darja, the supportive woman. Digimos, guardian of fairness. Demetra, the planet mother. Dukalan, the self-saving man. Defja, the woman who is a celestial being. Jiras, the man who is an expert of the cosmos. Dijmara, guardianess of fairness. Dorados, the gold-bearing man. Decora, the moral woman. Dobar, the flying man. I guess that would be me. Dobar. I should have been named Dobar instead of Larry, because I love to fly. Anyway, Dekja, the woman who is full of expressiveness. Dabaran, the groundbreaking man. Duna, the woman who catches birds. Deltos, the man who is a sailor. Dorada, the gold-bearing woman. Damyiro, the man who seeks value. Datazja, the woman who gives. This is going to take a while. Drakos, the unforgettable man. Dragida, the tree nymph. Dichtanan, the mighty man. Dunara, the woman who upholds decency. Detlau, the man who searches. Detjila, the self-creative woman. Okay, it looks like we're going in alphabetical order, and we're only up to the D's. We're going to be here forever. So I'm going to take the lazy man's way out, and I'm going to say, if you would like to know the list of these names, or maybe print it out for yourself or whatever, it's on www.futuremannkind.co.uk/Billy_Meyer/report_125. I'm just going to kind of scroll down through here and see if some of the Play Aaron names are in here. I'm just kind of curious. Let me go to the P's, see if Playa is here. I'm up to the G's. H. I could look for Quetzal, I suppose. Let me look for Quetzal. See if Quetzal's in here. He'd be all the way toward the bottom. P. O. P. Now, let's see. I don't see Playa. Not yet, anyway. Hang on. Nope. No Playas in here. And no Q's. So Quetzal isn't here. I'm not sure what these names are for. Maybe it's ancient Lyrian names or something. I don't know. But QRS is Semjase here. There's Sema, the woman who gives names. No Semjase. So these aren't Play Aaron names. I think these are probably maybe ancient Lyrian names or something. I don't see any here that I recognize. Watusa is the cattle herdswoman. Wega is the woman who is a lyre player. Um, anyway, you go all the way through the whole alphabet, but there's no Q's. So Quetzal isn't in here. I haven't seen Svath or Ptah. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, goes all the way to Z. It's a long part of the contact report. Okay, Semjase. Those, my friend, are the names, as I already promised them to you long ago, listed in accordance with our alphabet letters. I selected 21 male and 21 female names for you, as these were common on Earth about 14,000 years ago and were brought at that time by our direct ancestors. That would be the Lyrians, I'm guessing. The names handed over to you come from two languages, the original Lyran and Vegan languages. But at the same time, different dialects were united by those living together on the earth. So these are names that were on the earth 14,000 years ago. Okay? They're not necessarily Lyran or Vegan, but the earth humans probably massacred them and whatever. Anyway, unfortunately, due to all the cataclysms in the course of thousands of years, only very few of these names were preserved or preserved in similarity. In the main, they only exist in old languages, which have already become historic languages on your planet and are only spoken very seldom. In many cases, however, they have also fallen to rather bad changes and distortions in these languages, so they are often hardly recognizable therein. Most values are still contained in the so-called ancient Greek, but this language itself already represents a distortion, for truly this concerns the latest Minoan. Thus that language, which was spoken by people of the Minoans, and which by these was taught to the ancient Hellenes, the Greeks, in parentheses, together with many things of their culture at the time, until the Santorini volcano exploded about 3,500 years ago, and the Minoans had to flee to the mainland. If it should be possible for me, time-wise, I will perhaps transmit to you 3 female and 3 male names from each letter in some time again, but for my part, this should not be a promise, so do not count on it. For my part, I would be very glad if, through the given list of names, these old names, which are also still current with us, would find use again on earth, for they are truly value-containing. Now farewell, my friend, until next time. Now, that's the end of Contact Report 125, and I'm going to make a statement about names. It seems to me that 14,000 years ago, your name told what you were going to be, or what you were. I don't know if your name was given to you by parents or if your name was chosen when you become of age or whatever. But names all seem to have they all seem to have a description. Nowadays, a woman gets pregnant. She says, okay. She gets out a book that has a list of 10 million names. She thumbs through there and finds one that she kind of likes the sound of, and she gives it to her child, not knowing what it meant. Well, maybe some of the books have a rough idea what it means, but these are supposedly what the names meant 14,000 years ago. And Semjase says she'd like to see these names come back to use on the earth, but I don't know what I would be. I think my name chosen would have to be the one that flies. I forget where that was. The Flying Man, Dobar. I think I might have to go by the name of Dobar from now on. Dobar, the Flying Man. Because I fly anything. Okay, anyway, that's it for Contact Report 125, and sorry if I ramble on a little bit. Again, these names are all listed on the Future of Mankind website, and I'll put the link in the description, so as I usually do. So for now, I'd have to say goodbye, and we'll talk to you. See you later next time. Thanks, bye.